Hello everybody and welcome back to Faster Than a Bullet. It's been a month, but we're finally back. I'll just very quickly clarify why I have been away for so long. So first of all, I was in Tenerife for 2 weeks. Then I came back, I needed a week to recover. And then unfortunately, my great uncle passed away last week. So I've been very, very busy with things, and we're finally back after a month away. But I just wanted to let you guys know as to why I had been away. So yeah, we're back this week. We're going to be reviewing Formula 1 and NASCAR's action from this weekend, and we're also going to be previewing MotoGP. We're on episode 19 now. So episode 20 will be next week. And you guys might be wondering, why aren't you talking about IndyCar? I'm going to be completely honest with you guys. I'm a little bit fed up with IndyCar at the moment, especially road and street courses. I don't really watch them anymore, and it's just because Palou wins every damn week. Whereas like IndyCar on the ovals is different, which is why I am going to preview Milwaukee, because there could be a few different guys that win on the ovals. And also oval racing is just more entertaining at the moment for me, which is weird to think, because I remember, oh gosh, 3-4 years ago, my opinion was this: going round in circles sucks. That used to be my opinion. I used to despise NASCAR and IndyCar. Well, not IndyCar actually. I watched IndyCar 4 years ago, but I didn't really like the oval racing as much. Now I actually like oval racing more than road racing, which is quite crazy to think about. Road and street course racing, which is weird to think about. But we'll get into F1 first, and I watched this live on stream in case you didn't see it. But it was a fantastic race, I have to say. Probably one of the best of the season, one of the best of the new era. And Lando Norris took his second victory in a row. He obviously won in Hungary a few weeks ago, and then he went on to win in Zandvoort. However, he wasn't even the third most impressive driver on the day. I would argue that there were at least 4 drivers who were more impressive than him. First of all, but not least, Nico Hülkenberg. And I said at the start of the race, obviously, I'll go through the sort of race, and then I'll explain why I think Hülkenberg was the best driver on the day. But when the race started, it was quite damp. It wasn't completely wet, but Verstappen spins on the opening lap, retires from the race. Bortoleto also spins, and Hülkenberg is right behind his teammate and nearly hits him. And I say on my stream, and I'm not gonna find the clip because you can watch it yourself. It's like within the first, I think, like 45 minutes of the stream. It won't take you long to find. I say if Hülkenberg or Audi get points today, it's because of Hülkenberg, because of what he did there. And he went on to finish in 8th place, get his second points finish in a row, second points finish of the season. Audi are really beginning to gain some momentum now and look like one of the quickest cars in the midfield now. Bortoleto probably would have been up there if it wasn't for his spin. But what we got was some fantastic racing in the midfield and some fantastic racing at the front. Because don't let the 11.5 second gap between Norris and Antonelli deceive you. There was some great racing. The battle for the podium places, for example, between George Russell, Lewis Hamilton, and Charles Leclerc at the end of the race. The battle for the win between Kimi Antonelli and Lando Norris. Who was going to win the strategy? Was it going to be Mercedes or was it going to be McLaren? And then, of course, as I said, the battle for the points. I mean, I remember the part of the race where you had Lindblad, Gasly, Sainz, Lindblad, Albon, Gasly, Tsunoda, and Hülkenberg all together in a pack. And then Hülkenberg just overtook them one by one, and he made this incredible overtake around the outside of Gasly, I think it was, into the chicane just before Arie Luyendyk balked, and it was a fantastic overtake. And it was a really, really good weekend for Audi, picking up 4 points, a great result for them. But we had some great battles in the midfield. I was going to go through the race, but I think instead we'll just get straight into sort of going team by team, driver by driver. We'll start off, I mean, Max Verstappen, you know, he's been so good this season with the Red Bull. He's still ahead of Oscar Piastri in the standings, despite being in a much worse car. And, you know, I thought coming into this weekend he would be a contender for the podium. However, in the end, you know, he was out on the first lap, and this will be his last home race until 2028 when the Belgian Grand Prix is on, because of course Verstappen's from Hasselt in Belgium originally. However, he represents the Netherlands since he grew up there, basically. But he's half Belgian, half Dutch, so that's basically a home race for him. It's the same with Stroll and with Norris as well, because both of them are half Belgian too. But I feel bad for Verstappen. First lap incident. I mean, the car just loses the rear. There's no grip, and it was, it was quite funny because NASCAR, IndyCar, and F1 all had big wrecks at some point. In F1, it was Verstappen's. Of course, the red flag came out. In IndyCar, it was Palow's, and then in NASCAR, it was Riley Herbst, who ended up retiring. And we're gonna get into NASCAR because NASCAR was amazing. Like, I think that was one of the best races I've seen of NASCAR ever. Like, I've only been watching NASCAR for about 2 or 3 years now, but that's one of the best races I've ever seen of NASCAR. North Hampshire, it was amazing. It was absolutely phenomenal. But anyway, Behrman and Ocon, Haas just had a nightmare day. And I mean, to be fair, Ferrari cars in general had bad days because, I mean, the engine failures for those two and then the hydraulics issues for Bottas meant that in the end only three Ferrari powered cars out of 6 actually finished the race, which isn't good. Although Ferrari have looked like the most reliable engine this year, so it's quite odd that that's happened. But anyway, then obviously you got Stroll retiring with handling issues. He wasn't running very well anyway. Aston Martin tried a different strategy with him as they tried with Alonso, who we will get into because I'm going to be giving that man some praise. Albon and Sainz, what on earth was Carlos Sainz thinking? Like, they're coming into Tarzan, they're in the start-finish straight, they're coming into turn 1, and he just decides, tell you what, I'm just going to lock my brakes up and go right into my teammate. And I see on the timing pylon that the gap with the two Williams cars has disappeared, and I'm like, what's happened to the two Williams cars? And then you just see this dust getting kicked up, because what was happening was the leaders were coming through just after the collision happened, and you saw them getting back on track, and you're like, oh god, one of them crashed, didn't they? One of them crashed into the other, didn't they? And then I see a replay, and I'm like, oh my god, they did a Gasly and Ocon. They did a Gasly and Ocon. Incredible. Sergio Perez finished 15th. Again, I said this at the start of the stream I did, and that was, if Cadillac can get both cars over the line today, that's good. And they almost did. They were 9 laps away from getting Bottas over the line. Just 9 laps. And he was so close to getting classified, but it was a good result for Perez considering it's just about finishing for them at this point. And then you've got the two boys with the penalties, Lindblad and Colapinto, 12th and 14th. What were they thinking, man? They just completely they decided they didn't use their brains for a minute, and it costed them both points chances, because you look at where. Because let's be honest, right? Yuki had a fantastic weekend, but Arvid should be beating him because, Arvid's been in the car longer. Arvid's got more experience in the new regulations anyway, and has done testing and all that stuff. And Yuki finished, I think, 5 or 10 seconds behind Gasly in the last point. Lindblad, if he hadn't got that penalty, would have been there. Colapinto probably would have been a bit closer, although he wouldn't have gotten points, maybe 11th or 12th. But those two just made massive errors on the after during the red flag, and it costed them dearly. They got drive-through penalties, and that was their race basically screwed. The only way that the race wouldn't have been screwed is if a safety car came out, but none of them did. They brought out a couple of VSCs. I think they should have brought out a safety car for Ocons because it took them far too long to get that clear. However, I digress. I think that some of the decisions were spot on. I think that the penalty was fair for those two. Piastri getting a black and white flag for weaving was fair because Hamilton could have gone into the back of him, and we could have seen, Verstappen and Ricciardo at Baku all those years ago. Jeez, all those years ago. I was thinking about this, guys. In a few weeks, I'm turning 19. Next year, I'm going to be 20. I'm finished. I'm an unk. So, talked about 14th and 12th, and the reason why I skipped 13th is because those two were sort of in the same scenario, Lindblad and Colapinto. Bortoleto, he spun on the first lap, and he was very lucky that he didn't get T-boned by Hulkenberg, who, I mean, look, I'm not biased towards him. I may be German, but I'm not biased, although I was buzzing when he got his podium last year, but I think everybody was. I was actually crying, I'll be completely honest. I was like, he's got a podium, and there was tears coming out of my eyes. I love sport. And But I was like, that is, no matter what happens today, that is the moment of the race, and I stand by that. It was phenomenal, phenomenal bit of maneuvering by Hulkenberg. So Bortoleto finishing 13th in the end isn't actually terrible, considering he spun. He was lucky that he didn't retire from the race, and to be fair, I don't think he would have gotten points anyway. Maybe he would have, but I just don't know if he had the overall pace today, yesterday I should say. And then I talked about 12th. So now we got 11th, and I wanna give a standing ovation. Um, to Yuki Tsunoda. Yuki Tsunoda is his first and probably only race back in F1, and he almost gets points if it wasn't for the Aston Martin strategy, which we will get into. But he drove a solid race. He finished ahead of Lindblad, mainly because Lindblad got that penalty, but a solid drive from Yuki. It would have been so funny if, I mean, it's so funny that he finished in 11th, because I'm pretty sure he had a thing for finishing in 11th place at one point. Both him and Hulkenberg have had a thing for finishing in 11th. I just want to check. I swear that he went through like a stage where he like scored like 4 or 5 11th place finishes in a row. Yeah, yeah, he had 3 in a row. At the end of 2022 and at the start of 2023, he scored 3 11th place finishes in a row. And then after that, you got 2 tenths and another 11th. Um, yeah, he he had a knack for that. He had a real knack for getting 11th place finishes. So it's not a surprise to me that he finished in 11th. But anyway, now we get into the points. Gasly finishing in 10th. If he hadn't got held up in that traffic, and if Alpine had done the same strategy as Audi had, which was soft and then hard, I think that was what Audi did in the end, then it would have worked out better for Gasly, and he might have been able to finish ahead of Alonso. He would have finished ahead of Alonso, because what happened was he was trying to get through the traffic, and because he was on hard tires, he couldn't. Whereas Hulkenberg was on the softs, and he was passing them all because he was on better tires than they were. So he was able to clear them, and he was able to get up the road really, really, really quickly, clear them, and eventually got himself home 8th, about 20 seconds ahead of Alonso. So now I'm gonna do my second standing ovation of the day, the second of 4. Actually, I'll keep this on. Fernando Alonso, bravo, absolute mad lad. So, Aston Martin did the exact same strategy that they did in Hungary, and it worked this time. So what they did was they did 36 laps on the hard tire, on the soft tires, and then halfway through the race they switched to the hards and went to the end, and Alonso held on from Gasly. And I was watching on stream. I was keeping an eye on the gap, going, is Gasly going to get Alonso? Is Gasly going to get Alonso? Is Gasly going to get Alonso? And he didn't, because Alonso had managed those tyres to perfection on both stints, and Gasly's tyre wear ran out at the end because he was on the softs. What a performance from Alonso. Alonso, Hulkenberg, and Hamilton really showed that the elder statesmen of the sport have still got it. Like, I was thinking about this on stream. There is only one driver on there's only 3 drivers on the grid who are older than 31. Because Sainz is 32 next week, starting next week. Wait, hang on, I forgot about Perez and Bottas. Like, I forgot about Perez and Bottas, but they're in cars that literally cannot perform, so I'm not even going to include them. So, like, in terms of guys who are in competitive cars, there's only 3 of them that are over 31. And that's Hamilton, Hulkenberg, and Alonso. The rest of them are all under 31. And look at how they performed. Fourth, beating his teammate, 8th and 9th. And so, yeah, Fernando had an incredible day. Aston Martin's strategy was executed to perfection. I was saying, when the virtual safety car came out after Ocon had his retirement, I think it was when they put out they put out the VSC for that. I was saying, Alonso, pit for mediums, because then Gasly can't get past you. or then you can catch up to Gasly or something like that. And I'm glad they didn't listen, because if they had done that, they probably wouldn't have got past. So well done, Aston Martin. You did absolutely brilliant today. Yesterday, I should say. Absolutely outstanding from Alonso again, and just showing why he's still one of the best drivers in the grid, carrying that Aston Martin to the points. The upgrades are working, and they're now ahead of Williams in the pecking order. They're ahead of Haas, they're ahead of Cadillac, and they're just behind Alpine, Racing Bulls, and Audi now, in the midfield. They're in the midfield now, in race trim anyway. Maybe not in qualifying, but in race trim they are. So well done to Fernando Alonso, an incredible performance. Monza's going to be a very difficult race for Aston Martin because of that engine power. But we'll see. We'll see how they get on. So bravo, Fernando Alonso. And then my third standing ovation goes to Nico Hülkenberg, who I already talked about. Phenomenal race from him. Audi's strategy also worked magic, because they started him on the on the medium or the hards. I can't remember which one of the two it was. But then, he goes into the softs, and it works perfectly for him, because even after he comes out behind the guy at the pack that I mentioned earlier, which had, Albon, Sainz, Gasly, Lindblad, and Tsunoda, he comes out behind them all, I think apart from Tsunoda, and he clears them all because he just had better tires. He had the softs, and he was able to clear them. And then he comes on to the hards and the mediums. I don't remember which one of them it was, and goes to the end, and he's miles ahead of Alonso at the end, because he managed to clear all those guys and Gasly couldn't, and he got all that time made up. Plus, the Audi just looked really, really quick this weekend, and they are looking like they're going to be the top team in the midfield now, because Alpine have struggled the last few rounds. Racing Bulls have been a little bit inconsistent recently, not ridiculously poor though, I will say. Racing Bulls are still, Alan McNish said before the race, Racing Bulls are still the target to catch in terms of, pace. Maybe not in the constructors, they're too far behind now. But Audi will get past Williams, and for a first F1 season, finishing in 8th place is not half bad. They're going to finish ahead of Williams. I don't see them finishing ahead of Alpine or Racing Bulls. They'll probably finish ahead of Haas as well, maybe. So they'll probably finish 7th, actually, which is really good for their first factory season. And I think Aston Martin might be able to get 8th, because Haas are performing terribly. And, Haas have a knack of this. They start the season really well, and then they end it terribly. They start the season well with a good car, and then just in the middle of the season, all falls apart, and then they're basically limping across the line. That is exactly what it's the Haas playbook. That's the Haas playbook. They start the year well, and then it just goes downhill from there. It's like a slow decline, and then up, and then decline. And so I think Aston Martin might be able to get 8th here, which is quite crazy to say, because at the start of the season I did not think, because I remember we were all hearing about this mystical Hungary GP upgrade, and we're like, oh, I bet you right now it won't be as quick as they were saying. No, it was as quick as they were saying. And then the Honda upgrade comes in Zandvoort, and it was as quick as they were saying. So Audi and Aston Martin have had a really good race weekends, picking up 4 and 2 points in the constructors. That's helping them catch Williams, who are just tripping over themselves. Same with Haas. They're falling further back, and those two are moving further and further forward. Especially Aston Martin, from where they were, slowest car, and now they're 7th or 8th quickest, fighting for points. They're doing a very, very good job, especially Alonso. And now we're going to get into the final standing ovation of the day. Liam Lawson. Now, obviously, he finished about 40 seconds behind Piastri, but still, he finished in the points, and that's something that a lot of guys at Red Bull haven't been able, in the Red Bull seat, haven't been able to do, over the years, including himself. So for him to be able to do that, well done to Liam Lawson. He had a solid race. He didn't even do anything, like, good or bad. He just got it over the line. You didn't see him at all because he was just doing his thing. He was just keeping himself in the top 10, wasn't making any mistakes. He had a really good qualifying, and then just gets it over the line in the race. Obviously almost takes out his teammate, and well, then again, it was more so Max that almost wiped him out, to be fair, because, I mean, Liam was on the outside, and Max just kind of, like, left him just about enough room, but it was a little bit tight coming into Hülkenholzbocht. But well done to Liam Lawson. And now we finally get into Oscar Piastri. To think that a year ago this man was the favourite to win the World Championship is mental. He just looks completely shattered. He finished 32 seconds behind Norris, although he did pit in extra time, which did cost him, let me think, probably about 5 or 10 seconds to Norris, maybe. But even then, a really poor result from Piastri. He doesn't have the excuses that Lawson and Tsunoda had of they've not driven the car. He's been driving it all year, and he's been behind Norris quite comfortably. Norris is on 159 points. Piastri, I think, only just cracked 100 now. In fact, I don't even know if he has he? Let me go and check. I don't know if he even has gotten to 100 yet. He's just cracked 100 now. And he's still not ahead of Verstappen in the standings. He is 55 points behind Lando after, 11 or 12 races? So he's lost on average 5 points a weekend to Norris, which is mental. Because when you look at it, I mean, Hamilton is 28 points ahead of Leclerc, and then Antonelli's 59 ahead of Russell. Although Russell's had a whole heap of issues, and also he's just not been very good this season. So that's like a little bit of context about the gap. Like, there's nobody who's got a bigger gap to their teammate in the standings than Piastri to Norris. Not even Verstappen and Hadjar, because Verstappen is 44 points ahead of Hadjar, and that's having Hadjar missed a round. So if Hadjar finished where Lawson had finished, he would be 38 behind rather than 46. So, Oscar's just having a terrible season. Last season, in the second half of the season, he completely capitulated under pressure. He's still got time. He's only 20. A lot of people forget this. Oscar Piastri is only 24. He's not as old as Lando or George or Charles or, Gasly or Ocon or Sainz or Verstappen. The guy's born from 94 to 97, 99, Stroll as well. And Albon, who are they're old, basically, by F1 standards now. They're 27 to 31, 32. He's got time on his hands, and it's the same with, all the other guys. Oscar's 24, isn't he? Is he 24 or 25? He's 25. That's still, he's got a couple years still. And what people forget is he wasn't that young when he made his F1 debut. He was 22, which is, older than a lot of the other guys who he's racing against. Charles was in F1 when he was 20. Lando was in F1 when he was, I'm trying to think, he was 19. Kimi was in F1 when he was 18. George was in F1 when he was 20. Oscar made his F1 debut when he was, 22? Almost 22? Yeah, he was born 6th of April. Almost 22. Yeah, he was a month shy of 22. So, there's that, I suppose, as well. However, yeah, he definitely should be doing better. 100%. Oscar. He's been getting beaten by Lando for the last 9 months. 9 or 10 months, consistently. Not even that, 11 months. 11 months. Since Zandvoort, pretty much. Was that the last time Oscar won? Or did he win in Qatar? Yeah, that was the last. Oscar Piastri hasn't won a Grand Prix in a year. That's mental. Anyway, then we got the Ferraris, and there was a whole thing with that. Hamilton, Leclerc should have let Hamilton through. Ferrari did a really bad job of that. Probably costed Hamilton a podium place. And they tripped up over one another once again. And, as I was saying on stream, this is Ferrari heritage. This is what Ferrari does. Ferrari does. So, dreadful from them. Mercedes, Russell wouldn't have gotten any better than third in that race, because Norris and McLaren just out-strategied Mercedes. And that's, the second time this season that they've been done on strategy after Barcelona. Mercedes, I don't think they had the quickest car, but they were close to having they probably did have the quickest car, but Norris was the better driver. Um, I mean, he wasn't the best driver on track. I mean, I think him getting driver today was a bit of a farce. I think Hulkenberg and Alonso definitely deserved it over him, and Lawson and Tsunoda as well. Um, I think that those guys all deserved it. If I had to, I give mine to Hulkenberg because he drove brilliantly. Um, so yeah, Norris just pulled off a great strategy. He drove really well. And in the last year or so, I've been very critical of him at times. Sorry, in the last year and a half. However, in the second half of 2025, he really like stepped up. And was very calm under pressure. But that's what happens when you've been in F1 as long as he has, which is why I'm giving Piastri the sort of thing of, he only started in F1 in 2023. This is his fourth season in F1. Lando's been in F1 7 seasons now. He's in his eighth. Max Verstappen's in his 12th season of F1. Charles Leclerc's in his ninth. George Russell's in his eighth as well. So is Alex Albon. Like all these guys have been in F1 for 5, 6, 7 years. Oscar's only been in 4 seasons. This is his fourth season in F1, and he's not Lewis Hamilton. Although Oscar did have an incredible junior record. He's not Hamilton, and he's not guys like that who or even Kimi. Well, I mean maybe, but I mean it depends on if Oscar had the machinery in 2024 for the whole season. Could he have done anything? Maybe, I don't know, but I don't think he's on the level of Hamilton when it comes to potential and things like that. I did think he would be a world champion one day, and I still do think that. However, it's not looking good for him at the moment. But Lando's driven brilliantly, and he thoroughly deserved the win. Back-to-back wins, ends the streak of 5 different winners, and it was probably going to come to an end. The only way that wouldn't have ended would have been if Max or Oscar won, and that was never going to happen. Because I mean, the top 5 was the last 5 winners: Leclerc, Hamilton, Russell, Antonelli, and Norris, and yeah, I couldn't, you couldn't really see Oscar or Max winning this weekend. I said maybe Max could get a podium, but yeah, it didn't happen in the end. But that's F1, all covered. They're not going to be racing next weekend. They're racing on my birthday weekend, which is the 6th of September. Then we've got F1 Academy next, and Rachel Robertson doing her thing again. She's going to be top 10 in the standings after Kota if she continues the way she is. Had a fantastic round in Zandvoort. Just wanted to give a shout out to her first. But yeah, Alisha Palmowski just doing what she's done this whole season and just dominating. Her race management was phenomenal in race 2. She led from the front and she didn't make a mistake. She managed the pace brilliantly, and it was very similar to Blaney's drive in North Hampshire, which we'll get into after this. But her race control was very good. Her race pace was very good. She was able to control the race from the front, didn't make any mistakes. Alba Larson had a fantastic weekend, and she had rapid pace in race 1 and race 2. And she got her first podium, and it feels a bit like a retribution, because obviously Montreal, she almost got a podium, got taken away from her, and in the end she didn't have a very good round at Silverstone. So for her to get that double podium was great, and really good result for her. And then you got Nina Gademan in third, getting a double podium at home. Obviously she won last year, so it's a shame she didn't get the same result this year, but she's had a very consistent season. Natalia Granada had a great main race, although big mistake in the sprint, which has costed her quite a few points, and she'd be ahead of Matilda Pats if she'd done better. But I was thinking about this when I was watching, and that is Megan Bruce, Natalia Granada, and Rachel Robertson are probably going to end up with one of them is going to end up with the Audi seat, one of them will end up with the Alpine seat, and one of them will end up with the Ferrari seat, because obviously Felbermeyer, Giedemann, and Larson are in their second seasons. I think they're going to end up with those seats, and I think that they're all having very good seasons. But yeah, Granada had a great main race. Felbermeyer had a very difficult weekend. She made quite a few mistakes. Race 1, she almost wiped Rachel Robertson out, and I was like, penalty, give her a penalty for that. because I mean, Rachel literally gave her the whole. It's like like when you give somebody, right, when you're sitting on the bus and somebody sits next to you and you give them as much space as you can and you're still getting shoved up to the window. That is what happened with Robertson and Felbermeyer, and Robertson was lucky that she didn't get taken out of that race, and she lost a couple positions because of it. Um, so I was really really annoyed because I was like, she would have finished ahead of Lloyd because she managed to hold her off in the main race. She would have finished ahead of her, but hey ho. She got her punishment, did Felbermeyer, and yeah, finished fifth in the main in the second race. She had an all right race. She just couldn't get past Granada. Granada defended very well, um, and I don't think she would have gotten ahead of her anyway. Megan Bruce had a peculiar case because in race one she was really slow, and still managed to finish seventh. Because what happened was she had she didn't have much pace. It was quite odd, like she just like slowly just dropped and dropped and dropped, and she didn't have a great deal of pace, and it was the same in race two to a lesser degree. Her and Robertson had the same results, a seventh and a sixth, although obviously in different races. But I think Robertson actually had a bit more raw pace than Bruce did, because Bruce got a little bit fortunate in some ways. Robertson got unlucky in some ways, but still, it was a really good a really good points haul for Bruce. She's now scored in every race since Shanghai, barring one of the races at Silverstone. So she's been on a really good run of form. She is level on points with Westcott in the championship. I think Westcott closed up and passed her. So did Larson. She had a really good weekend, and yet she still lost positions in the championship purely because Larson had a really, 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 really strong weekend, and then Westcott managed to win in the sprint race, in the reverse grid race. So where am I now? I'm trying to think. Seventh I've talked about. Eighth, yes, Ella Lloyd. She made the wrong decision in qualifying, and it really costed her. She got completely, she was rapid in the wet. If the red flags hadn't come out for the crashes that I think it was Jackie and Ferreira had, or was it Bilar? I can't remember which one. It was one of the French drivers. If those two red flags hadn't come out, Ella Lloyd would have gotten pole position because she was rapid in the wet, but she made the wrong decision and she didn't go onto the dry. She stayed out in the wets, and it costed her a lot of positions. And in the end, she probably had top 5 pace in both races, but she only managed to get a fifth and an eighth in the end, because she just, as I said, she just didn't managed to get a good bout of points. And her and Bruce lost out in the championship to Larson and to Westcott because they both had difficult weekends, did Bruce and Lloyd. So I just realised I'm making it, because that's mental. That's mental. I'm looking at it now. Palmowski's the only one who doesn't have a guy's name in their surname out of the British drivers. Palmowski, Bruce, Lloyd, Robertson, Robert, and Stephen. That's mad. I only just noticed that. Wow. It sounded like I was talking about two blokes there, Bruce and Lloyd. That's why I was thinking about that. But anyway, yeah, Lloyd had a decent bit of race pace, but in the end, it didn't really happen for her. And then after that, we have got in ninth Westcott, who I briefly touched upon. She did exactly what Palmowski did in the feature race, but she did it in the reverse grid. She controlled from the front. Larson pressured her on that last restart, but she held firm. She even managed to pull away from her at the very end. Managed to win by, I think, 2 seconds. And it was a great result from Peyton Westcott. Ninth in the main race, so not as good, but still managed to pick up points. And got a good bout of points. I'm just having a look now how many points she scored. So she got 12 points of the weekend, whereas Lloyd got 11. So actually Lloyd actually didn't lose a place in the championship to Westcott, I don't think. Oh wait, no, she did, because Westcott got the fastest lap. I think she, yeah, and then on count back, Westcott's ahead, right? And then Bruce scored 7 points in the first race, and yes, she got 10 points. So yeah, she lost out to Westcott as well. But yeah, a really good weekend for Westcott. She got a good good batch of points and managed to get a good result in the sprint, taking her first F1 Academy win as well. So props to her. First podium for Larson as well, so she did very well. Natalia Granada getting her best finish of the season. Oh no, second best finish of the season. I forgot she got a podium in Shanghai in the sprint, but her best main race finish. So all round good performances for them. And then in 10th place was Esme Kosterman, her home race, and she steps up to the plate and she hits a home run, a 4th place in the sprint, phenomenal result from her, and then a 10th in the main race. So that gets her quite a few points in the championship as well, moves her up onto 6 points. I'm trying, because that wasn't her first points of the season, was it? Oh, it was, wow. Her first points of the season as well, gets her ahead of Ella Stevens in the standings, and she'll be looking to really start to gather a bit of momentum now. And then outside of the points, you had Jade Jacquet. Honestly, this girl, if she had any luck, she'd have no luck at all. Like the amount of times where she's been running towards the points and she's been wiped out or she's had issues, honestly. Then Lisa Bilar in 12th, then Ava Dobson 13th, who had a very good sprint to be fair, but just couldn't get any points in the main race. Then 14th was Ella Stevens, who's not had as good a season as I thought she would. I thought she'd be contending for Rookie of the Year, but she's had a really poor season. And she'll be hoping to, have a good last 2 rounds to try and make up for what's been quite a poor season, where she only got points in the race in Canada. That was her only top 10 of the season, the main race in Canada, where she got 4 points. And then who else do we have? 15th place, Rafael Ferreira, poor qualifying, that costed her any chance of points. 16th was Kaylee Countryman. To be fair, she did finish 9th in the first race, which means that she finished literally just outside the points. And then just didn't have a very good main race. Her, Matilda Pats, Esme Kosterman, Kiara Baitig technically, Ella Stevens, those guys are like, they've basically relied on like 1 round of results a lot in terms of points. In fact, no, entirely for all of them. And we'll get into Matilda Pats because I was expecting her to have a better weekend as well. But all those guys have basically gotten all their points in like a single round, because Stevens got all of her points in Montreal, Countryman got all of her points in Montreal, Pat's got all of her points in Montreal. Obviously, Kiara Baitig only did one actual round because she was a wild card, and then Kosterman got all of her points in Zandvoort. So yeah, it's a weird one because this is me talking about Pats now. She had a really, really good round in Montreal. I mean, she did inherit the win, but she still drove brilliantly. And you're just wondering, how come she was so good in Montreal and not good at any of the others? Could it be because she, raced in Montreal last year as the wild card? It could be because of that. But, who knows? And then Zoe Florescu in 18th, she actually qualified really well, and then she got completely nuked by a disqualification in qualifying, and that put her on the back foot. She finished 11th in race 1. Like, she actually drove really, really well. So it's a shame for her. She'll probably end up with a seat next year. Because obviously, as I said, Lloyd, Westcott, Larson, not Westcott, sorry, Lloyd, Larson, Giedemann, Felbermeyer, Palmowski, are all going to be out of a seat. Although, to be fair, actually, because when you think about it now, I already know who's going to be in the Red Bull and Mercedes seats next year. It'll be Luna Flusha that's in the Mercedes seat, and it'll be Kiara Baitig that's in the Red Bull seat. And so then that leaves the other 3 seats at Alpine, Audi, and Ferrari. And then you also have to take into account the fact that Cadillac are going to be in it for next year. And so, it gets a little bit trickier for you to work out, who's going to be where next year. But I think Zoe Florescu will get a seat next year on the grid because she did drive very well, although obviously trying to live up to the standards of Kiara Baitig is very difficult. So that's F1 Academy done. I got a good 15 minutes with that one, to be fair, which was quite good. And now we move on to NASCAR, and oh my gosh, that was some race in New Hampshire. Honestly, it was fantastic. Starts off in the rain. Lap one, Reddick spins, and Hamlin has nowhere to go, and he thinks he's gonna get going again. He spins and then loses time. And then that brings out the caution. It's still very damp, and they're driving like it's Bambi on ice. Unsurprisingly, you see Connor Zilic and Carson Hocevar just siphoning their way through. SVG leading by about 5 seconds, and then so at the end of stage one, you see SVG dropped back at the very end. He was leading by about 5 seconds at one point, but as it dried up, his pace just lowered and lowered because his setup was for the wet. Finishing ninth in the end in stage one. But and I don't know what happened to Zilic at the end of stage one, but he was running in the top 10 for most of it, and then he just dropped back a bit at the end. But Larson, Bell, and Hocevar was the top three in stage one. Hocevar had a phenomenal stage one. Like, dude was passing people like there was no tomorrow. And then they got up to Bell, almost passed him, and then he just dropped back a bit from him. But we'll talk about how chaotic Hocevar's race was, because and the reason why is because he caused two cautions. And still managed to finish in the top 20, despite being 2 laps down at one point. But we will get to that when we do. I just wanted to say, though, Ford, I don't know what they've been doing with their cars recently, but RFK, Wood Brothers, and Penske have been absolutely cooking hard. Like, in the top 10 in stage one, half of the Fords were, almost half of the Fords were in the top 10. Oh wait, no, because I forgot, isn't, what's their name? Ford. Front row, yeah, okay, no, never mind. Like, a quarter of the Fords were in the top 10. Like, they did very, very good in the first stage. But it was a Chevy show in the first stage. Larson drove brilliantly, and I was thinking to myself, he probably won't win it. It'll either be Blaney or Berry or Wallace that wins it. This was at the start of stage 2, I was thinking this. But you never know. And the reason why I was saying that was because Berry, Blaney, and Wallace were absolutely rapid. Those guys were, I think, five seconds ahead of anyone else. It was Blaney and Berry together, and then Wallace a couple seconds back, and then way further back was guys like your Priuses and your Ty Gibbs and your and guys like that. But slowly Reddick and Hamlin were working their way through the field, and eventually they managed to get themselves into the fight for the top 10. Hocevar and Zilic come together, and look, it was a racing incident at worst. Like, and at best it's Hocevar's fault. At worst, it's a racing incident because Keselowski's on the left, Zilic is in the middle, Hocevar's on the right, and there's just not enough space. Hocevar goes for a gap that doesn't really exist. And then what happens is he hits Zilic, makes a bit of contact with him, his front tire goes, and then he spins. And then that puts him a lap down. And then life as a Hocevar fan the following 100 laps and 50 laps was misery. And then he spins again, but that gets him back on the lead lap. He spun, and he got himself back on... he got himself only 1 lap down. And then what happened was Herbst had that huge crash, and they all got the wave around. So nearly everybody's on the lead lap. Like, everybody is on the lead lap, coming into the final, 50 to 100 laps of the race. When did Herbst retire, actually? I'll need to check. 222, yeah. So he retires, and then Zilic's day just ends miserably, because what happens is he's got Cindric Byron or Cindric in front of him. I can't remember which one of them it was. I think it was Byron. Was it? No, it was Cindric. It was the 3, wasn't it? No, was it Cindric, or was it the 2 or the 3? I can't remember. But it was one of the Austins was in front of him. And he just brakes, and his brakes are just not working, and he just goes into Herbst, and you're like, how on earth did he end up? How did he get himself into that situation? It's what's the old saying again for Zilic? Back to the something factory. I can't remember the phrase, but that's just Zilic's season in a nutshell. Trackhouse in general, Chastain's out the chance for the playoffs now, for the chase, I should say. He had brake failure and just had absolutely nothing going for him at all. What a poor Chastain, man. Poor Chastain. Like, it wasn't even his fault. His brakes just went, and he was running in the top 20 as well. Like, he was having a good day. He was running top 20, and then his brakes just decided they're gonna fail. Um, but the Herbst crash was a big one. Thankfully, he was all right. Then they got going again, and this is when, I mean, it was phenomenal to watch the battle at the front, but the battles in the midfield were also amazing. You had all sorts of different strategies going on. Some were going on to 2 tires, some were going on to 4. Blaney's team had a terrible pit stop. He dropped down to, I think, about like 13th or 14th. He had to work his way back up. And then, they managed to strategize, and he got himself back to the front. You had guys sort of ebbing and flowing in the field. I think Barry had an issue on pit lane, and he dropped down to about like 13th or 12th, and he managed to make his way back up to 3rd again. And if he hadn't had those issues, he probably would have won. Like, Barry, well, but the thing is we don't know, because Blaney was managing the race so well. He was managing his tires, he was managing his pace, and when it came up to the lap traffic, he managed to get through them and not make a massive problem out of it. And by the way, I want to give Hocevar a shout out. And look, and people go, "Oh, you're a Hocevar stan." Look, I like the guy. He let Blaney and Bubba and Brett and Barry go through. He let them go through, and the others didn't, like, because they were all battling for position. But Hocevar, like, saw them coming up, and he was like, "Okay, I'll let them go." He just lets them go because he knows that it's, the last couple laps of the race. And then he just sits in behind them and watches the battle unfold. Maybe he was just wanting to watch a battle for the win. Who knows? But Bubba costed himself potentially with the lockup that he had into turn 4. And it could have that probably costed him a good result in the end. But it was still, a fantastic performance from Bubba. He hasn't won since the Brickyard last year. Obviously, Barry's out of his seat, and since he's found out he's out of his seat, he's decided, I'm going to just turn into the reincarnation of Jeff Gordon. Almost said Jeff Burton there, although to be fair, North Hampshire was Jeff Burton's playground back in the day. But he just had a very, very good run. So did Ryan Preece. Preece ran really well. That 2-tire strategy in stage 2 worked very well for him. He managed to keep himself really, really high up the field for most of the race. And he ended up coming away with a really, really good result. Front row were running very well too. The Fords in general, I think, had a very strong weekend. The lowest Ford was in 21st, and that was Gilliland. But then, apart from him and Boucher, who just didn't have a very good day, all of the rest of them were in the top 15. Cindric, by the way, in those final 50 laps, Cindric went on a mad one. I was saying, oh man, it sucks that, that Preece might not get into the chase, and Cindric does, because Cindric's in much better machinery. And then Cindric goes and just shuts me up and gets a 12th place after running about 23rd. He makes up all them positions, and he manages to get himself into 12th in the end, although he should still be doing a bit better, considering the fact that the only reason he finished ahead of Logano was because Logano probably had some sort of damage on his car the whole race after he spun because of Hocevar's spin, which was his second spin. Hocevar spun twice in the race, and he still managed to finish in 19th. That's what he does, man. That's what he does. And then Logano comes from a lap down and finishes in 14th. And Logano will be thanking... In fact, no, it was Hocevar's first spin where Logano spun out. But Logano will be thanking Hocevar for his second spin. So will all the guys who were 2 or 3 laps down. Who were, like, usually a lap or 2 laps down, but were saving but were staying out on the set of tires that they were on, and they pitted earlier. They will be thanking him, because without him, they would have ended up a lap down. Although they'll probably not be thanking him for being a stupid driver at times. But it was a good strategy from Logano to stay out, and then it worked for them, because he managed to keep himself on the lead lap, and he got himself a top 15 finish in the end after looking like he wasn't going to finish any higher than 25th. I mean, in the end, 29 cars finished the race within a lap of the finish. Byron had his tire fall off, which was absolutely hilarious. Like you just saw the 24, like just he's coming out of turn 4 and his tire's gone. You're like, what the dog doing? What the dog doing? It was so funny. It was bouncing along the track, and you're like, oh my god, this is pandemonium. And the reason why I laughed at it was because I knew for a fact, because the caution would come out, nobody would be able to hit it. And it was a really fun race. It had a bit of everything. Oh yeah, Nemechek crashed as well. I forgot about that. Yeah, he ended up finishing 4 laps down. Um, Austin Dillon had all sorts of issues. I remember just seeing the three on the inside going really slow. It would have been Cindric then. It was Cindric that was in front of him. I remember now it was Cindric because Dillon had issues. Dillon was basically, I remember at one point, the leaders were coming round, and you just saw Dylan on the inside. I was like, what? The three's got an issue here. And then I look at the timing, the pylon, and I'm like, oh no, he's just like 20 laps down. And it's like he's just there. He's just there picking up points. 5 points. He was in the pits for a while as well, because I saw during one of the ad breaks, because obviously I watch it in the UK, so that means I don't get any adverts because they just keep it on the worldwide feed. At the break, for like a solid 30 or 40 seconds, it was literally just an onboard of Austin Dillon's car in the pits, and you knew it was his because it had the 3 number next to it in that fancy lighting. And he was just there, and I was like, oh god, yeah, he's got issues, hasn't he? But yeah, honestly, it was a great race, and I loved watching it from start to finish. A lot of really good racing in the midfield, and then you watched guys going from nowhere to right at the top. Reddick finishing in 8th in the end, and Hamlin finishing in 7th after going right to the very back. Preece ended up finishing only 9th, which is quite a surprise because he had a really good start to the day. But those stage points will come very, very important for him because we are now in the final round of the regular season. We're going into the chase, and Denny Hamlin has secured his place as the number 1 seed. And in terms of the guys who've secured their place in the playoffs, the top 14 have. I'm pretty sure. I think Cindric and Van Gisbergen are the only 2 who haven't confirmed their place yet in the playoffs. I'm trying to see. How can I see? Hang on a second. I'll go into the NASCAR social media. I'm trying to remember all the guys who managed to get themselves into the playoffs. I'm trying to remember who it was that got themselves into the playoffs. Let's see. Oh yeah, Bell had that whole pit lane scare as well. That's another thing. Oh yeah, I remember what happened with Herbst now. McDowell dive bombed him and went to the side of him. I forgot about that. And McDowell finished 15th in the end. I bet that would have pissed off Riley Herbst and the 2311 crew. His 2311 crew. I'm trying to see where's the do they not have the who's gotten in? Yeah, I mean Berry and Wallace were saying that they had to fight all day, but yeah, Bubba needed to have a good day, and he had one, and he needed to get in, and he did. Yeah, there we go. So the top 13 have secured their place now in the playoffs, and now only 2 drivers can now mathematically get in. Everybody else has been eliminated. So the guys that have been eliminated are Chastain, Jones. I feel so bad for Eric Jones, man, because he would have had a really good run in Iowa. And then Reddick just ends his race after 4 laps, and he immediately was like, oh no, and he immediately went and he apologized to him, and I was really glad that he did that. But it was a really, really, really difficult day for Legacy. They did not have a good day. McDowell's 21st, Allmendinger 22nd, Gillen 23rd, Zane Smith 24th. No, I'm joking. And this is why nobody likes most of our fans. Austin Dillon in 25th, Herbst 26th, Stenhouse Jr. 27th, Nemechek 28th, and then it's Josh Berry in 29th. He got ahead of Alex Bowman, which is weird because Bowman actually had a good day. He finished top 20. He finished 15th, I think. But Berry had such a good day, and he's had such a good run the last few weeks that he has he's went on a mad one essentially, and he's got himself right up into. I think if Berry continues this run, he'll probably end the season like 25th or 20 or 24th or 20, probably even better. Probably 25th or 24th. Like, he's been on a really good run recently. And he's found out he's lost his seat, and he's decided to turn into Prime Jeff Gordon, as I said. But then you got Bowman, Gregson, Custer, Dillon, Zilich, and then Cody Ware, and then, yeah. That's like the full-time guys. But Zilich is just having an awful, awful season. He's won Rookie of the Year, but that's because there aren't any other rookies. That are full-time anyway. I mean, maybe if K-Mag raced, did more than one race. Maybe if K-Mag did this season. Nah, but seriously, yeah, Zilich. I'd love to see K-Mag in NASCAR, but it's not going to happen because he's doing too good a job in WEC. I'm still waiting for WEC to come back, by the way, honestly. It's been so long since Le Mans. It's been so long. It's been so long since I've seen a WEC race. I want it back. I want it back. Le Mans was the last race, I think, wasn't it? But anyway. So the guys that are left that can still get in are Priest and Keselowski. And it's going to be a question of, can two RFKs make it in? Can one of the two RFKs make it in? Because the thing is Keselowski can get, I mean, he can get a maximum of I think, 77 points in a Cup Series race. Keselowski can only pass Van Gisbergen, and the only way he can get past Van Gisbergen is if he wins and manages to get, let's see, 15 stage points, and SVG retires after about 5 laps. Priest has more of a chance. Priest is 31 behind, which isn't impossible if he can get a top 5 at Daytona and Van Gisbergen crash out, then he might actually be able to get it. And, you know, Priest had a good run yesterday, I should say. Although by the time the race finished, it was actually, no, the race didn't finish until, the race finished at 11. Honestly, the race finished at 11, I was like, the race? It's not midnight yet and NASCAR's finished? Wow. You know, because usually I'm up until after midnight watching NASCAR, but, you know, in the end, you know, it finished before midnight, so I had some time to myself before I went to bed, rather than going straight to bed. Sorry, that's the neighbors. Oh, they're learning to ride a bike. That's quite nice, actually. Anyway, so hang on a second. I'll go and close my windows. Okay, I close my windows. Yeah, so it's not entirely out of the question for Priest, but he's not got a very high chance. I can't see him getting in the end. I just think SVG will have, you know, he'll just manage the race and just, I mean, he's 31 behind, so that means, you know, SVG needs to pick up 36 points to get 46 points to guarantee it, but he probably wouldn't need that, because, I mean, Priest would have to win both stages, win the race, and then go on to get, like, you know, fastest lap, lead the most laps, all that stuff. And then, I don't know, do you get a fastest lap in NASCAR? Do you get a point for fast lap in NASCAR? I'm trying to remember it, but I can't. Anyway, so it was a you know, a really good performance from Priest and from all the Fords pretty much. In terms of the guys who've now confirmed their place in the playoffs, Larson, Elliott, Logano, Buescher, Mavoy, Carson Hocevar, Byron, Daniel Suarez, who's had a great season, by the way. Shout out to Suarez, he's been so consistent this year. They've secured their place in the playoffs now. Joey Logano has now arrived. I hate to say it, Joey Logano has now arrived. And it's an even year. And people called him a playoff merchant, but maybe now in the chase he might actually be able to prove himself. No, I cannot see anybody that isn't Denny Hamlin winning the championship. Like, Hamlin and Blaney are on mad ones at the moment. Like, especially Hamlin. Like, I cannot remember the last time on a track that wasn't a road course where Hamlin had a bad race. Like, I'm looking at it now. When was the last time he had a bad race on a track that wasn't a road course? And I'm talking, like, outside the top 20. Oh my god, it was Daytona. The first damn race of the year. Hamlin has finished in the top 20 at every single oval since Atlanta, which was the second round of the season. And for context, we're now at race 25. That is how consistent this guy has been. And then it's pretty much the same for Blaney as well, except for at Kansas and Talladega, actually. Yeah, and also Indianapolis, actually. Yeah. Blaney's had a few bad races, whereas Hamlin's had one bad race on an oval all season, and then he's just been rubbish at the road courses, apart from quota where he finished 10th. He finished 14th at Coronado, he finished 26th at Sonoma, and he finished 16th at the Glen. So I mean, he's not been very good on the road courses, but he's been. I mean, Hamlin has just dominated this season. And the craziest thing is he hasn't even got the most stage points. Ty Gibbs does, and that'll be because in Sonoma, Gibbs won both of the stages in that, because what they did was they decided to stay out when everybody else pitted. So I mean, that gambit clearly worked for him because he's got the most stage points at the moment in the Cup Series. I want to see who else has got like an absurdly large amount of stage points for like where they are. I'm trying to see 151 for Logano. That doesn't surprise me. 200 for Larson. Larson's got 200 stage points. That's mad. Do you know? It'd be interesting to see what the standings look like without stage points. Suarez would be really, really high up. Like, Suarez would be ahead of Byron, and would he be ahead of Hocevar? Hang on a second. It's, what, 47 points? He's 36 behind. Yeah, he would be. No, 36? Yeah, he would be. He'd be ahead of Hocevar, and he'd maybe be ahead. Would he be ahead of Boucher? No, he wouldn't. Anyway, it's good to see that the two of the Spires have got their place in the playoffs, because you know these guys were the real underdogs at the start of the season, and now they've shown. I was thinking about it earlier, and thinking about it last night. You know, I think you've really got 6 really strong teams. You've got RFK, 2311, JGR, Hendrick, Spire, and Penske. They're like the 6 teams that are looking really strong. And then you've got the others, you know, I mean, you occasionally see a front row doing all right. You occasionally see I think Legacy and Trackhouse are probably like battling for 7th best team. If I had to say, JGR have the best team, and you can see that because I mean all of their drivers are top 6 in the standings. And then I would say 2311. No, sorry. Then I'd say maybe Hendrick, then 2311. Then I would say Penske, but Penske have been doing a lot better recently, so maybe they're ahead. Then I would say Spire, and then RFK. They're probably the 6 best teams. They're the 6 best teams on the grid at the moment. And then you know at the very back, obviously you've got Haas and what's her name? Hayek. I mean, poor Allmendinger. He's like, he's driving a colleague, and and they've not even got manufacturer support from Chevy. Like, if Allmendinger had and colleague had factory support, he would probably be battling for a playoff place. By the way, like the fact that they've not got access to things like a simulator and they haven't got manufacturer support sucks. And he's 130 outside. If he had full factory support, if they had manufacturer support, he would probably be top 20 in the standings right now, and he might even be ahead of Chastain. So I feel bad for Colleague in that regard. But anyway, that's us talked about NASCAR. So now we're going to get into the previewing. So we've got 2 events on. MotoGP, 3, MotoGP, NASCAR, and IndyCar. And I am going to talk about IndyCar because we've got the Milwaukee races coming up. So we're going to do a little bit of predictions, and then that'll probably be us for today. We'll have a little look at... Actually, let's do the news segment now. We usually do news last, but I've remembered it. So I will get the motorsport news up. Let's have a little look. So I know for a fact my main story is Enea Bastianini has gone to Trackhouse. That has now been confirmed. So he had a very... very mixed season so far, has Enea Bastianini, but he's now been confirmed to be joining Trackhouse for next year, replacing Ayagura, who's going to Yamaha, because obviously Fabio Quartararo's left. Oh, this is interesting. So let me get my... I should say. Where is it? There it is. So here is the stuff that we're going to be reacting to. I'll just go and make sure that this is in the right spot. There we go. So we will begin. Mercedes hasn't got the money to keep up with rivals. Now that's interesting. How come that is? So apparently it's imagine reading this sentence to somebody who isn't an F1 fan, by the way. Mercedes isn't expected to bring any significant upgrades to the W17 until F1 heads overseas again, starting with the Bahrain Grand Prix in Malaysia at the start of October. Imagine reading that sentence out to somebody. That's mad. Like, Bahrain Grand Prix in Malaysia? But it's good to have Sepang back on the calendar, to be fair. I don't know if I fully reacted to that, but it was good to have it back on the calendar. So this is good. This is a good thing, by the way, because, I mean, we've still got another month until then, and how many races is that? Let's have a little look. F1 calendar. We've still got another 3 races. Ferrari, get on the blower, get on the blower, get on the blower. Lock in, lock in. McLaren, lock in. Come on, lock the heck in. You guys need to do. You guys need to improve, because we need a fight with these guys. With a certain size and infrastructure. Is he calling Ferrari out and saying that they're rubbish? Mercedes clearly not F1's best team anymore. No, but not. I mean, I think they're still the better team, but I think, you know, they're. It's a lot more close now. Let's say. Call me, please. Yuki Tsunoda makes cheeky F1 return pitch after impressive. I mean, he has been impressive. I'm just gonna ignore this news because I do not care. Oh, what's this? Ooh. That's actually really cool. Wow. And then they're doing a... Trying to see if there's anyone interested on here. Alexa Danielson. Yeah, Luna Flusha, exactly who I was on about earlier. And Zoe Florescu. Yes, I've heard about Ginevra Panzeri, and the reason why is because I was looking at some of the karting results recently. Karine Kauer, yeah, I think she's part of Alpine. Autumn Fisher, yep, she was a wild card. Mila Schustrand, yep. I'm trying to see if there's anybody else here I recognize. Is she related? I wonder if she's related to Augusto Farfus. Hang on a second. Let me go and check this, guys. Hang on a sec. Let me go and check this. Is she related to Augusto Farfus? I don't know if she is, but I wouldn't be surprised if that's like her dad or something, because he's old enough to be. Just see, hang on. I'll Google her name and see if anything comes up. Also, Kokoro Sato, is she related to Takuma? Brazilian Italian. She's 14, so yeah, she's probably... I was right! That is her dad. Augusto Farfus is her dad. I knew it. I was like, Farfus. Wait a second. Is she related to Augusto Farfus? Yep. That's her dad. It runs in the blood. And then Kokoro Sato. Is she related to Takuma? Is that like Rintaro's younger sister? Does he have a daughter? I know he has a son. Because his son's a racing driver as well. Takuma Sato's son. Does he have a daughter? Or because Sato is a bit more of a common name. Hang on a sec. It might be, you know. Because he has a daughter. And she's a year younger than me, so it might be her. I don't know if it is, though. Okay, no, I don't... hang on a second. 3rd of April 2008. And when was that article from that I've just seen? Okay, no, it's 1st of October. Okay, I don't think it is. Okay, no, they're not. I don't think they're related. It's just coincidence that they have the same surname. Although it's quite funny because his daughter is the same age, although a few months younger. That's quite funny, actually. Anyway, back to where is it? React. There we go. So trying to see if there's anything else interesting in here. But it's good to see that all these guys are going to get some experience at these training camps, because that's good for their development, because you know these sorts of things are what happens with driver academies. You know, they go and do things like that. I'm trying to see if there's any news. So here we go. So there you go. Bastianini is joining Trackhouse. KTM Finley gets to revitalize its MotoGP engines. Okay, so they've basically opened it up, and they've found a way to fix it apparently. The other manufacturers gave KTM their approval. That is good. Good on them, because honestly, the issues that they've had are borderline dangerous. The issues that they've had are, you know, borderline dangerous. What they've been, all the mechanical problems. It's good to see Johan Zarco back, by the way. I'm very, very happy that he's going to be back. Let's see. What am I doing? Yeah. It was a bit confusing, that crash. Exactly. That's exactly what I was saying. The sole NASCAR Cup Series Rookie of the Year candidate. Exactly. He's only Rookie of the Year because he, you know, he was fading, and then Herbst crashed ahead of him. Now, let me see. Oh, shoot. I forgot I haven't got my speakers in. There we go. Right. Let me go and see. I'm trying to see based on this. It was the it was Austin Dillon then. I thought it was Cindric, but it was Austin Dillon. Huh. So Dillon was in front of him, and then yeah, he locked the fronts, and then after that the car lost all oil pressure. So by comparison, SVG had only 4, Carson only had 2, Ty had 5, and then Austin Cindric had 4. And Zilic has had 9 DNFs, and some of them haven't been his fault, some of them have been, but this is a really interesting point. New Hampshire was vintage Ryan Blaney in every way. It was, yeah, he was absolutely fantastic, and he drove a brilliant race, so full credit goes to him. Yeah, so this is it here. It's Cindric and Van Gisbergen versus Priest and Keselowski, although Keselowski would need a miracle, basically, to get in. Like, he would need to win the race, get loads of stage points, and then hope that everybody else that he's battling with has a bad day. He's not got much of a chance. IndyCar news, is there anything? No, there isn't. Okay. WEC... any news in that? Oh yeah, I heard about that. I didn't know who this fella was. I'm not gonna cover it only because I didn't really know who he was, and I don't want to say, oh, you know, this is so sad. I've known about this guy for a while, and I'm not as knowledgeable on GT racing and NASCAR racing as I am on F1, MotoGP, and IndyCar. It's not like I saw the name. I was instantly like that I recognized it. I'm trying to see if there's anything else here. But I don't think there is. Oh yeah. Now this is to do with the Rosens. I'm gonna get this up, so give me a second. There is a rumor going about. I'll go into Reddit and I'll see if I can find it. Hang on a second. Discord, because I posted it in my work chat. And said watch this space because something might happen. So there is a rumor going about at the moment. Let me get this back up now. Here we go. That, let me just translate this. Where's the translate button? There it is. Rumors from the paddock. Will AIX be replaced by a new Italian team? From the ashes of Prima's winning management to a team to be acquired and transformed, this is the summary of the latest rumors from the F2 and the F3 paddock, according to which Rennie Rosen and Guilherme Capietto, who used to be the team principal of Prima, are ready to manage a new team based in Italy, taking the place of AIX Racing. In minor formulas, something is brewing. Rennie Rosen and Guilherme Capietto are reportedly thinking of acquiring a team already present in F2, F3, and F4 to be able to relaunch themselves after forcibly abandoning Prima at the beginning of 2026. The most discussed name in the paddock is that of AIX Racing, for now in the possession of a group of investors from the United Arab Emirates. For some time, several rumours have been hovering around them. The most recent coming from Spain and France. According to journalist Ilan Sejourne, the two former members at the top, and that's where Prema were based, would be close to acquiring the Emirati team. The Spanish newspaper Pitlane Motor, on the other hand, said even more about what the future of the controversial team might be. And the reason why it's controversial is because of whereabouts they're from, and also the fact that they've not been very competitive in anything that they've raced in. Like Dirksen was like the only thing that was competitive about them in the last few years. But anyway, according to the Iberian newspaper, Rosen and Capieto could become part of AIX Racing, or it could take place in a complete acquisition of the team. In this case, it would change its name and perhaps also the reference location. The second option would be activated thanks to the financial support of the Macagnani family, which includes Nicolo, currently a member of the Ferrari Driver Academy, and Nicolo Macagnani is having a good season in F4. He's currently in Italian F4. He's currently 6th in the standings, decent young driver. Prema's huge expenses in IndyCar and a campaign that turned out to be a failure did not allow the two to recover funds to create a new reality on their own, but something is already moving in the province of Milan. Alphabet Racing Italia was born in March 2026, a team now under construction with open positions currently for the recruitment of engineers and mechanics for Formula 2, Formula 3, and Formula 4, also available on LinkedIn. Right, what's this all about? Hoo-hoo! Now, this is interesting. Greater Milan area as well. It's quite funny because Rennie Rosen says open to work. I think he's trying his best not to give anything away. I don't go on LinkedIn much. It sucks. For now, all this information remains rumours and neither confirmations nor denials have arrived. With the probable debut of the new team in the preparatory categories, however, Italy would have a third team to raise the young talents of the future. So yes, Prema might be back, although it's the guys who used to run Prema that might be back. I'm trying to think if there's any other pieces of news that I need to cover, but I don't think there is. Before we get into the previews, okay, they've got nothing for NASCAR Euro. Okay, I think that's all the motorsport news that we really need to cover. So now that that's done, let's get into the previews. So we have got, first of all, MotoGP. So last time MotoGP raced in Aragon, obviously last year, this was Marc Marquez's playground, He won there, and Alex Marquez finished second. Marc won the main race, only by a second to be fair. But one thing I immediately noticed looking at these results, Aprilia did not finish in the top 5, and even a Honda beat them. It's going to be interesting because, recently, the Ducatis have caught up a little bit with the Aprilia. But Aprilia still looks like the team to beat. After Ayagura had a bad weekend, he's lost a tiny bit of momentum, but I mean, you look at it now, and, you've got guys like DG and Luca Marini who have just been consistently scoring points. Same with Agura, to be fair. And, they've been doing fantastic jobs. Silverstone was a weird one because, I mean, Raul Fernandez won, and I did not think he was going to win because I thought he was ruining, I thought he was ruining his tires at the start of the race. It turns out that was just his pace. Jorge Martin couldn't catch him, and Marco Bezzecchi held on to third because Alex Marquez it just did not happen for him. And then who was it that had an issue again? Was it Acosta? Yeah, I think Acosta had no. Who was it that had a mechanical issue? Pecco had an issue. Bastianini, somebody had an issue in Silverstone, I swear, while running towards the front. Oh no, I'm thinking of Moto 2. Yeah, so it was a really good round for Raul Fernandez. Aprilia, they still look like the team to beat. Ducati have caught up a little bit, but if I had to give a prediction this weekend, I mean, it's Marc Marquez's playground. However, I think Jorge Martin's going to win this weekend just because it's a home race for him. and he has the bike, and I think he can do something that perhaps hasn't been done in a while, which is beat Marc Marquez at Aragon um, when he is on a really fast bike, or a bike that's fast for him anyway. Then we've got Moto 2. Now, I'm trying to figure out what last year's Moto 2 race was like in Aragon, and I'll go and get that up right now. Last year's Moto 2 race was won by Denis Onchu ahead of Diogo Moreira and Barry Baltus. Philip Salach finished in 5th. Oh yeah, Onchu won by literally that much. I forgot about that. What's interesting though, Manu Gonzalez only finished 9th last year there. Salach finished 5th. And Salach won last weekend. Senna Aegis finished 4th. So I'm gonna say an Aegis win there, to be honest. Because he ran really well there last year. And barring Silverstone, he's been on a really good run of form. He's finished top 4 in the last 5 races, as I said, barring Silverstone. I think he could do it. I'm gonna say an Aegis win, and then I'm gonna say Salach 2nd, and I'm gonna go Gonzalez 3rd. I think that might be the result. Aegis was really quick last year there. I can see him getting a good result, but you never know. So that's my prediction for Moto 2. And then Moto 3, again, what was the story last year there? Let me have a little look at that. Give me a second, guys. It's quite weird. Aragon was really early on last year in the season. David Munoz won it. And is he even racing yet? Is he back racing yet? I don't know if he is. Is he back racing yet? I don't actually know. But Quiles isn't racing, is he? So somebody else is going to win. Will it be Carpe? Will it be Almanza? Will it be Uriarte? Could it be somebody from outside the top 10 in the standings? I mean, if Munoz comes back this weekend, he'll either win or he'll crash, I think. I'm trying to think if there's anybody who's a really, really big standout that could have a shot. Because, I mean, Carpe finished 3rd last year. Almanza finished 4th. Honestly, it's kind of difficult to say who I think could do well. I think I'm gonna go for this. May be a really random shout. But I'm gonna go for Uriarte. I know he didn't finish very well last year. He finished a lap down last year. Oh no, that's Marcos Uriarte. Where did Brian? Oh no, Uriarte's a rookie, isn't he? I think I'm gonna go Uriarte because he's had a really good run of form lately. He didn't have a very good Silverstone, but I'm going with him for the same reason I'm going with Aegis. But I went with Aegis, and that is they've been on a really good run of form since sort of Monza time, not Monza, Mugello time. So I reckon him for that. Then we move on to NASCAR at Daytona, and it's going to be interesting to see what happens with that. However, if I had to make a prediction, last time out, Carson almost won, but I'm not going to go for him. And I don't think I'm going to go Reddick either. I'm going to go for... I'm just trying to think about this now. I should have made my predictions before I went on camera. I mean... Logano had a good run there last time. Stenhouse finished 2nd, didn't he? I'm not going to go him, though. I'm going to go Logano for the win. He's been really good on the ovals recently. Although, to be fair, this is more of a super speedway. So, it could be a little bit more different. I mean, Hamlin won Pocono. It'll either be Hamlin or Logano for me. I mean, Larson's not won yet this season, and I can't see him winning this weekend coming up. Could Bell maybe do something? Maybe. I don't know, honestly. It's difficult. I think, it'll be out of those guys and maybe Reddick. But, I mean, I'm looking at Reddick's form now. He's only managed 3 top 10s in the last 10 races, I think that is. 3, 6, 9 races. In the last 9 races, he's only gotten 3 top 10s. That's mad. 4 top 10s. Sorry. 3 top 10s. 3 top 10s. 4 in his last 10, and then 4 in his last 11. Michigan was when everything just started to go downhill. And since then, it's been absolute misery. A tale of two halves for Reddick. But yeah, I'm gonna say Joey Logano wins because he's been on a good run of form lately. The last time he finished outside the top 20 was Sonoma, and that was a road course. The last time he finished outside the top 20 on an oval was Pocono. He's been on a good run of form. I'm gonna go Joey Logano for the win. He's my pick. And then we've got the double header at Milwaukee. And I mean, obviously Polo's going to secure the championship. I think I think I've accepted that now. But it's difficult. Who's going to get a podium? I mean, it's obvious to say Rasmussen and Malukas and Newgarden. I'm going to say Newgarden wins one of the races, and then I'm going to say Pato for the other. I think I'm going to say Pato for the other. I don't know why, but I just feel like Pato's going to perform this weekend. I don't know what it is, but I feel like he's going to do something. Either him or maybe an Ericsson. Malukas hasn't been on a good run of form as of late, and I don't know if that's going to have an effect on how well he's driving. But if I had to give a prediction, I would probably say, I'm just going to check. Hang on a second. Was my React recording? Okay, it was. Okay. I just wanted to check my microphone was working on the React part. It was. So to conclude, I'm going to say MotoGP, Jorge Martin. Moto2, I said, who did I say for Moto2 again? It was Senna Aegis I said for Moto2, and then Moto3, I said Brian Uriarte. IndyCar, I am going with Race 1, Joseph Newgarden, and Race 2, Pato O'Ward. Thank you all very much for watching Thank you all very much for watching Faster Than a Bullet. I've been your host as always, Liam Plutner, and I'll see you all next week. And in that episode, we'll be reviewing what I've previewed, and then we will be having a little look at the events that are on the first weekend of September, which is going to be Formula 1. It's going to be NASCAR at Darlington, and it's going to be IndyCar at Laguna Seca. We got a lot on this. Oh my gosh, we got WEC as well. Holy moly, we got a lot on. We got 3 events from the Americas, and of course, we've also got F1, F2, and F3 from Monza. So thank you all very much for watching. I've been your host, Liam Plutner, as I said, and I will see you all on the next episode, whenever that may be.